Hey everybody, it's Mark Ruggiero here, Clark Commando, 1983. It's, I don't know, probably somewhere around 2 in the morning on April 5th, on Friday. And this will be my Learn to Play After Action Report, GMT Games, Unconditional Surrender. Part 6. If you like this, please subscribe to my channel. If you've been watching, I changed my dice because the freaking German die rolls has just been atrocious, literally like non-stop, which, great if I was a Soviet player. So, anyways, it didn't help me a whole lot. It's typical Ruggiero luck. I'm just pretty unlucky. So, and people will attest to that. That's not made up. I think people that play me, every once in a while I get some good rolls, but not too often. And I don't try to rely on good rolls. So I want to point out, as we have been going over the rules, what I did is this is the completion of both the German and Soviet July 1941 turn. I will say my next video I will have set up the campaign, and because I'm moving on, I don't really feel like this scenario adds much more that I can teach. It is a fun scenario, so if you got the game and you want a quick game, it definitely presents some challenges. My OCD, I hate these things, but I want to point out, so a couple things. One, I made some notes here. The Soviets get a Urals factory. So what happened, they got that in July, and what happens is you put one marker 2 more turns down the line, and you give the Soviets get extra factory. Every time the turn marker gets to the Urals factory, you bump it up another 2 turns and increase the factories for the Russians by 1, which eventually over the course of the war will get to 9. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. That's part of the East conditional event. So some highlights. I'm using my fancy dancy pointer here. Let's see what else happened. I made a note of that. Also note, the Soviets got their tank event markers. Those come back every turn. So I did use them, and obviously I resolved the combat. We captured, so let's see, highlights for the Germans. We took, what's this, Tallinn up here. We took Minsk. We took Brest. And I think that was it. That lowered the will of the Soviets by 6. And the Soviets lost 4 armies, which you can't tell because they were able to remobilize them. But that lowered, so the will of the, actually I didn't lower this. The will of the Soviets is down to 68, and the goal of the scenario, which goes till September, is to get them down to 45. So there's still quite a ways to go. The Germans, honestly, at this point, I think they're a little behind historical, but we did blow a line through here. We did some consolidation. If you remember from last video, I did a boneheaded move, and this Panzer army was low supply. So he's the only army that I didn't move is the Germans, just because I didn't want to worry about his -2. I did get some air battles and replenish. The Germans haven't lost anybody. Get an isolated pocket. Oh, these are low supply. I forgot to mark them, actually. For the Soviets, these are going to be low supply. Also note, I pulled back and formed a Soviet line, and I got kind of a backup line going. Like I said, I don't think I've played near ideally for the Germans, and honestly, the die rolls have just been like just bad, but I'll quit bitching. I did use this as a Soviet control because the Soviets still control this, even though they abandoned it. Soviet factory count is down to 10. And then with the -1, which is always at a minimum, you can't see it, I'm sitting there pointing like you can. They'll have 8 plus 1 extra, so 9. So anyways, they'll have 18 production points next turn, which we're not going to play. What else happened that was highlights? Probably the big thing for the Germans is they were able to at least punch a hole. I tried to pay attention to isolate units and get Soviets isolated and who was attacking. I repositioned the air. Just going to reiterate, in your mobilization, you can lower at a cost of 3 production points the sorties down. And actually, at this point, the German Air Force is definitely tuckered out. So they got 4 sorties here because they were at 6. This guy's at 3 because he was at 5. And this guy's at 3. Where the Soviets, this one went down to 2. Actually, I think I screwed that up. That should be a 4 still, actually. This one's at full strength. And this one here has 3 sorties on it. So if you remember, you can have a max of 6 sorties, where the sorties come in or your air-to-air combats. They're a negative modifier to the die roll. Let's see, anything else I'm forgetting? I don't think so. So I'll be setting up my next video, which I'm not sure when I'll get to it. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not. Hopefully by this weekend. I'll be setting up the campaign game, September 39, and I'll get it rolling. And I'll be doing some videos on that and walking through the rules and having, like I said, prepping for my game at GMT West here coming up in a couple weeks. Knock on wood, it's going to be a little bit rough because I got chemo that Wednesday and I go down that Thursday, but I will be there. I'll be square, thanks to my wife who's going to drive me. So, if it wasn't for her, I couldn't make it. So, but yeah, I'm having a good time. I think I'm getting the rules down. Hopefully you're enjoying the journey. I got to sort my markers. Everything flows really well in this game. If you like Strategic World War II or want to give it a shot, it is on pre-order at GMT Games, which, who knows how far out that will be. But it is also available on the secondary market. So, highly recommend it. Highly solitairable. There's really nothing that prevents you from solitaring it. The one thing that is a little interesting is when you capture factories, it doesn't add to your total, but subtracts from the enemies. So, very interesting. And there is like certain events that I think bump your production up. Like I said, the Soviets get the Ukrainian factories, but anyways, wonderful game. Your Axis miners are fairly limited in what they can do since they only have 1 production point. But, they don't get the multiplier like the Germans do. So, for example, the Germans have 12 factories. They get a ×2 modifier. So they have 24 production points. And there's a chart, and I've gone over when you activate a leg army, costs 1 production point, and a tank or panzer army costs 2. Kill your spend there, then you also spend 3 to recover up to 2 sorties on your planes. And that's the most you can recover. So, anyways, thank you for joining me, and we'll see what happens next with Mark and cancer and my games. And thanks for coming along for the journey. I really, really appreciate you. Have a great evening. Thanks. Bye.